It's been about 8.5 years since I seen this movie, back when I was terrible at video editing and used a microphone I must have picked out of the trash. So I feel like I owe it to this movie, and to myself, to give this review a proper do-over. Thankfully, it's just as great as I remember. Fast-paced, frantic action, ridiculous characters, an absurd story, and an art and animation style that's simplistic, but impossible to look away from. Dead Leaves has been a huge favorite of mine since I first watched it.
Who the hell are you?
I was hoping you'd tell me.
That thing around your eye makes you look like a panda bear.
And that retro TV on your head makes you look like an asshole.
Not that I mind, but why do you think we're sitting out here naked?
I don't know. I can't remember a thing.
Our story follows two amnesiac and incredibly rude and violent criminals who are stranded in the middle of nowhere. Cold, hungry, and walking distance from a local city, our two heroes go on a murderous rampage just for the hell of it, but are soon captured by the police and transported to a prison on the moon.
We the people, who are dedicated to protecting the common good, do hereby charge you with trespassing, theft, violence, assault, illegal possession of firearms, and a really crappy attitude.
As Retro and Pandy slowly regain their memories, they realize that they've been to this prison before and are aware of its secrets, allowing them to lead a prison break and fight through an army of police and 3 insane wardens on the way to freedom. The story is dumb as hell, but it does give the characters motivation behind their actions and deepens the plot, which helps the audience invest in what's going on. It's one thing if the wardens were just mean, but it's another thing if they're going around straight up murdering people at random, which helps play into how over the top the movie is.
You! Prisoner number 931! I'm talking to you! Yes, you! You crap too much! Your tube is totally backed up! That's just disgusting! Your whole existence is disgusting! I sentence you to death! 777! Do the honors!
That's so messed up.
However, despite a couple of long-winded explanations and backstories, much of the narrative is very hand-waved away. Almost like it's there to fulfill a generic anime checklist, but still deciding that it's not really all that important.
I can't figure out how we know all that stuff, like where the armory was and how to get to the docking bay.
I guess we were here before. We were prisoners and then our minds got erased.
That's right, we were vicious mobsters. They must have sent us here when they locked us away.
And that conveys this whole movie's attitude really well. From start to finish, it's preaching a gospel of who gives a hoot. If you're familiar with something like Hardcore Henry, then you've got an idea of what to expect. The story is there, yes, but not only are you here for the action, the story is actually more than willing to step to the side and let you enjoy it unhindered. Much of Dead Leaves revolves around crazy acrobatic motions and a plethora of guns with infinite ammunition, all complemented by a unique and zany art and animation style. Colors are simple, bright, and accentuated by deep shadows to act as harsh contrast, along with everything being comprised of basic, simple shapes and thick outlines, an approach that I generally like a lot. This is on top of a cool comic book look that makes this all feel like a Japanese manga in motion. When the animation is at its best, it's a ton of fun to follow the action. But there are more than a few times when it's clear that shortcuts were used. I'll excuse the copy-pasted design of the police and civilians since that's actually pretty hilarious, and it works as a nice contrast to the prisoners. The choppy animation could be a little more fluid, but I can look past that too. What's more egregious is how often still frames or short animation loops are repeated back to back. I can see this coming off as a parody of animation tropes in general, but I don't think it looks great here. Worse yet is when a straight up JPEG just floats across the screen. it comes off as extremely lazy, or probably more likely as extremely low budget, which is understandable but nonetheless a flaw. But perhaps the greatest flaw of all is its short length. Cut out the opening and closing credits and Dead Leaves is only about 45 minutes long. It's kind of tough to recommend if you're going to spend money on it, considering it's gonna be over before you know it. But there's also plenty about it that is so appealing. The director, Hiroyuki Imaishi, would later go on to create far more famous shows, like Gurren Lagann, Panty and Stocking, and Kill la Kill, among other works. But it's clear that his approach of insane action definitely got its start with Dead Leaves. In that sense, it almost comes off as a lost episode or a forgotten project. And while his later works have a much stronger emphasis on story and lore, it's really nice to get something short and self-contained like this. If you want a movie that's really rude, crass, very perverted,
Oops, sorry about that.
and just stupid as hell, then it's a fantastic way to kill a quick 45 minutes. I don't know if I'd say you should go out of your way to find a copy, but if it's on a streaming service that you're using already, like Netflix or whatever, then yeah, check it out. This movie's awesome. Thanks for watching my review on Dead Leaves.
Thank you.